My name's Mason. I'm 32 and live in a quiet suburb just outside Boulder, Colorado. I've been a handyman for over a decade, fixing, installing, patching, you name it. In the early days, I hustled nonstop, scraping together whatever work I could just to stay afloat. But these days, thanks to years of word of mouth and a reputation I've earned one job at a time, I get to be picky. I don't work out of desperation anymore. I work because I like it. My home's nothing fancy, just a small place to myself on a peaceful street with good neighbors. I was married once, but we split 3 years ago. No big fallout, just drifted apart. We have a son, Leo. He's 5 now, and I get him every weekend like clockwork. He's my world. Still, when Sunday night rolls around and the house goes quiet again, it hits me. The silence isn't always unbearable, but it can feel like too much. I don't crave constant company, but yeah, I miss having someone to share things with. Anyway, this story started on a Tuesday. The weather was calm. I was in my truck, sipping coffee, scrolling through job listings on my phone. One popped up: light fixtures and TV mounting in a newer neighborhood. The rate was solid. $500 for what looked like a 2 or 3 hour job. I tapped accept and dialed the number. A woman answered, calm, polite voice, probably younger. She gave me the address and said she'd be home all day. We settled on 10 a.m. when I pulled up. Her house stood out in a lawn, sleek, siding, a hanging chair swaying gently on the porch. Either she'd just moved in or kept it pristine. I grabbed my clipboard and knocked. The door opened almost right away. Her name was Tessa. Brown hair pulled back, soft eyes. Probably late 20s or early 30s. She wore a sweatshirt and jeans, comfortable, casual, but put together. "Hi, you must be Mason," she said with a warm smile, stepping back to let me in. "That's me," I replied. "Just here to check the space and see what I'm working with." Tessa led me into the living room, explaining the job: replacing 2 ceiling lights and mounting a new flat screen that still leaned in its box against the wall. The space was open and filled with soft morning light pouring in through tall windows. "That's the one," she said, pointing to the TV with the wall bracket nearby. "Perfect." I nodded. "Should be no problem. I'll just grab my tools and we'll get started." Most clients step back once I begin make calls, scroll their phones, disappear into another room, but not Tessa. From the moment I returned with my toolbox, she stayed close, not in a hovering way, just genuinely engaged. "So how do you usually anchor something like this?" she asked, arms crossed, watching with interest. "Does it depend on what's behind the wall?" "Exactly," I said. "I'll use a stud finder first. These TVs are heavy, and drywall alone won't cut it." She nodded. "Makes sense. I'd be terrified to try this myself." I chuckled. "You'd be surprised how many people do then call me after it crashes to the floor." She laughed. "Figures." We kept talking as I worked about tools, wiring, how I got into the trade. I told her about growing up in my dad's garage, fixing things, how I left a desk job in my 20s and never looked back. "So you like it?" she asked. "I love it," I replied. "Work with my hands, set my own schedule, no office politics." "Hard to beat," she smiled, something wistful behind it. "You seem like someone who enjoys what he does." Rare. I'd finished one of the ceiling lights by then and had moved on to the wall bracket. She pulled over a chair and sat nearby, clearly in no rush, and I didn't mind. She was smart, easy to talk to, and the air between us felt ... different. Halfway through mounting the TV, she stepped out and returned with a glass of water. "Thought you might need this," she said softly. "Thanks," I replied, wiping my hands before taking it. That small moment stuck with me more than it should have. She sat again, this time on the couch. "Do you ever get bored doing the same thing every day?" "Honestly, no," I said, tightening a bolt. "Every job's a little different. This lining things up, drilling, solving problems, clears my head." She nodded, glancing down at her hands. "That sounds nice. It's having something that makes you feel settled. What about you?" I asked. "What do you do?" There was a pause. "Used to work at a marketing agency," she said. "Burned out. Quit about a year ago. Now I do freelance work from home. It's just enough to get by. I nodded. Sounds familiar. Then she stepped to the window, arms folded lightly. My ex-husband didn't think I needed a career, said I was wasting time on creative crap. I didn't respond right away. She wasn't asking for sympathy. It felt like something she needed to say out loud. He sounds like a motivational speaker, I said dryly. She laughed. He was a lot of things. You guys split recently? 3 years ago, she said. Time moves fast when you're trying to forget something. I paused my work. Her voice held no drama, no tears, just a quiet weight. You have any kids? I asked gently. She shook her head. We tried. Didn't happen. He blamed me. I blamed myself. But the truth is, we didn't love each other the way we should have. I leaned back against the wall and let the silence settle. I've got a son, I said finally. Leo, 5 years old, weekends with me. I don't always know what I'm doing, but I show up. It counts for something. I hope. She turned toward me, leaning softly against the window frame. It does. For a moment, we just looked at each other, not romantically, not yet, just to people who'd carried their own weight. Quietly, and still chose to show up, even when it was hard. I returned my focus to the TV, carefully lining it up with the bracket and securing the bolts, while Tessa stepped a little closer, arms still folded, eyes fixed on my hands like she was watching and learning all at once. I didn't think I'd tell you all that, she said with a soft laugh, trying to shrug it off. I usually don't with strangers. I looked at her, not smiling, but not cold either. I don't think we're strangers anymore. She held my gaze for a second, then nodded. No, I guess we're not. I tightened the final bolt and stepped aside. There you go. Solid, centered, and ready for a Netflix binge. She grinned. That's perfect. Thank you. Wow. As I packed up my tools, she stayed nearby, not talking much. Just present and, just as I reached for the last screwdriver, she spoke. Can I ask you something? Sure. She hesitated not long, but enough to make me pause and look at her. Do you think I deserve to be happy? I blinked. That wasn't small talk or flirtation. It was heavier, something deeper like. She'd carried it around for a long time and didn't know who else to ask. I stood still, taking her in, not just her words, but her posture, her tone, her eyes a little shinier than before. I don't know everything you've been through, I said gently, but from where I'm standing. Yeah, I think you do. She nodded once subtle, but enough to say thank you without saying it out loud. We didn't speak again after that. I finished packing in silence, a different kind of silence, one filled with something unspoken but real. When I headed to the door with my toolbox, she followed me. Thanks again, Mason, she said softly. For everything. I turned to her. It was just a simple repair. She gave a small smile. Maybe not that simple. The days that followed were quiet. I stayed busy with other jobs, mostly small ones, but my mind kept drifting back to that moment in her living room. It's the way she asked that question, the look in her eyes, it's that strange mix of hope and doubt, like she wanted to believe the answer, but couldn't quite say it herself. Normally, I move on the moment a job is done. That's the rhythm. Fix it, get paid, move on. But this time, I didn't. By Thursday, I found myself hovering over her name in my contacts more than once. I didn't want to overstep. She was a client, but it didn't feel finished. Not really. So finally, I sent the message. Hey Tessa, hope your new lights and TV are still holding strong. If you're free Sunday evening, I'd still love to grab that coffee. No pressure. I hit send and set the phone down. Barely 5 minutes passed before her reply came through. I'd love that. There's a quiet place near the park on Hillside Street. 6 p.m. Simple. Casual. But it made my heart jump just a little. Sunday came. And I pulled up to the cafe 15 minutes early, just how I've always been. It was a cozy little spot on the corner of Hillside and Maple, with string lights strung across the patio and mismatched chairs that somehow felt intentional. I took a seat outside, ordered a black coffee, and waited. Tessa arrived right on time. Wearing jeans and a dark green coat, her hair down around her shoulders, this time calm, composed, and somehow softer in the daylight. Hey, she said, with that same quiet smile as she sat down across from me. Hey, I replied. Glad you made it. Her coffee arrived, and for a moment, we sipped in silence, letting the new context settle in. This wasn't a job anymore. It was something else entirely. I almost didn't come, she admitted. Oh yeah? I asked, and she quickly added, not because I didn't want to. I did. I just wasn't sure if I was ready for anything. I nodded, understanding. More than I let on? I get that. Honestly, I wasn't sure if I should ask. She glanced at me sideways. So why did you? I leaned back, searching for the right words, because you asked me a question that stuck with me. And I don't know, I just felt like there was more there, and I wanted to know what it was. She looked down, tracing the rim of her coffee cup with her finger. There is more. I've just gotten really good at hiding it. Then maybe we just start with a little, I said gently. You don't owe me anything. She nodded and took a breath. I was married for 6 years. We met young too. Young, probably. He said he loved that I was creative, passionate, driven. But after we got married, those were the things he resented. He wanted me to slow down, stop pushing so hard, said my ambition made him feel small. I kept working long. Hours because I believed in what I was doing. He believed in comfort. In staying small, she stared into her cup for a moment. He cheated. I found out 2 years in. I stayed. Tried to fix it. Probably know how that ends. Yeah, I said quietly. I do. She looked up, her eyes steadier now. It's been 3 years. Since we split, I've dated a little nothing serious. Every time something starts to bloom, it fizzles, or it's just built on nothing real. And I start wondering if I'm too much, or if I missed my chance. You didn't miss anything, I said without hesitation. You just haven't met someone who sees it yet. She studied my face for a long second, as if weighing whether to believe me. And what about you? She asked. What's your story? I smiled slightly. Not as heavy, but not perfect either. I got married at 25. We had Leo a year later. He's the best thing I've ever done. No question. But the marriage. It was quiet. No yelling, no cheating just. No fire either. We were more like polite roommates than real partners. I paused, then added, she left first. I didn't blame her. I think we were both just waiting for one of us to say it. Tessa nodded slowly. Yeah, I know that feeling. I guess I've been focused on work and being a dad, I said, my voice quieter now. Somewhere along the way I forgot. What it feels like to be seen by someone. The words slipped out, unplanned, but true. She reached across the table and touched my hand, just for a second light, steady, warm. She said gently, now you're seen. Didn't move, just met her gaze and held it. It wasn't a date knot in the traditional sense, but by the time we stood to leave, something had shifted. Something real. We didn't make plans. We didn't label it. We just stood together in the cool night air. I'll walk you to your car, I offered. She smiled. Thanks. Her car was parked a block down and we walked quietly. When we reached it, she turned to face me before opening the door. This was really nice, she said. It was, I replied. I'm glad. I messaged you. Me too. There was a beat to long one of those in-between moments where you wonder if you're supposed to lean in or just let it be. I didn't lean in. I just met her eyes and said, "Good night, Tessa." She smiled. "Good night, Mason." I walked away. The week that followed moved slower than usual. I stayed busy installing a window here, fixing a deck there, but my mind drifted more than it should have, replaying the night at the cafe, the way her hand brushed mine, and neither of us moved away. We didn't text much that week, just a couple of check-ins. A meme she sent that made me laugh out loud, but it didn't feel like distance. It felt intentional, like we were both giving this something space to breathe, to settle, to figure out if what we felt was just one good conversation or the beginning of something real. Then came Saturday. I just finished a morning job retiling a bathroom and was sitting on my porch, eating a late lunch when my phone lit up with her name. Tessa. Crazy idea. Call me when you can. I didn't wait. I called right away and she picked up on the second ring. Hey, she said, voice lighter than usual, but with a flicker of nerves just beneath. "Hey," I said, setting my plate aside. "What's up?" "So, this is going to sound impulsive." "I like impulsive," I replied, smiling. She laughed, a little shaky. "I've had this trip booked for months. China, just a week. I've always wanted to go." It was supposed to be with a friend, but she bailed last minute. Even before she said it, I knew what was coming. My heart kicked up, and I was sitting here thinking, I don't want to go alone. I've been putting this off for years, and I finally bought the ticket. I was going to cancel, but then I thought, what if I didn't? What if I just asked? There was a pause, soft but deliberate. "Mason, would you come with me?" I froze, not out of hesitation, but surprise. We'd known each other less than a month, shared one real outing, but the idea didn't scare me. It sparked something. "When's the flight?" I asked. "Monday night," I let out a breath. Okay. Like you need to think. About it? Or okay like you'll come? Okay like? "Yeah, I'll come." The breath she released sounded half laugh, half relief. "Really? Really? Why not?" Just like that, something shifted again. I cleared my schedule, packed light, dusted off a passport I hadn't used in over 2 years. Leo would be with his mom for the week, and I hadn't taken a real break in what felt like forever. When I got to the airport Monday evening, she was already there at the gate, sitting by the window with her carry-on by her feet. She stood when she saw me, eyes lighting up in a way that erased any lingering doubts. "You really did it?" she asked, almost in disbelief. I said simply. The 12-hour flight to Beijing passed in conversation, childhood stories, family, food, fears we didn't normally name. When we landed, Beijing was already pulsing with life horns, voices, movement everywhere. Dessa had everything mapped out, and I wasn't surprised. She wasn't the wing-it type. Our hotel was small, tucked off a quiet side street, charming. Clean 2 twin beds. She caught my glance and smirked. "Let's keep this simple." "Absolutely," I replied with a grin. That first day we visited the Temple of Heaven, wandered through narrow hutongs, sampled street food we couldn't pronounce, and I saw a version of her that felt vibrant, unfiltered, a woman not just getting by but choosing to live. The next day we hiked a quieter stretch of the Great Wall. I watched her climb the uneven stone steps, hair tossing in the wind as she laughed after almost tripping. "This is insane," she called back. "Can't believe I'm here?" "Me neither," I said, catching up. "But I'm glad we are." We sat side by side on the wall, sipping warm bottled water, gazing out over the mountains. So when she turned and said, "You know, I almost didn't send that text." I sat in my kitchen for an hour trying to decide if I was crazy. "Maybe you are," I said, nudging her playfully. "But you're the right kind of crazy." She bumped my shoulder with hers. "You're not so bad yourself, Mason." The rest of the week unfolded like something between a dream and a long exhale. We took a high-speed train to Hangzhou, drifted through ancient canals in Suzhou on quiet boats, wandered gardens that looked hand-painted by time itself. Tessa moved through each place with a kind of wide-eyed wonder, curious, brave, open, and I found myself meeting her there, mirroring her spirit without even trying, like I was remembering how to live fully for the first time in years. At night, we stayed up talking, sometimes in hotel lobbies, sometimes on dimly lit sidewalks beneath red lanterns and soft, persistent rain, but we never crossed a line. No assumptions, no pressure, no moves. And somehow, that made it feel even more real. On our 6th night, we stumbled into a little tea house tucked inside an alley in Chengdu. It was raining again, the kind that settles into everything like background music instead of interruption. The tea house was warm and dim, all wooden beams and fogged-up windows, and the only sound was rain against the roof and the quiet pour of steaming clay cups. Tessa sat across from me, her hands wrapped around her tea, her expression softer than I'd ever seen it, like someone who'd just set down a weight they'd been carrying for years. "I've never felt this close to someone I barely know," she whispered. I held her gaze. "I don't think time decides that. Some people you've known for years never really see you. Others only need a moment." She nodded slowly, folding her hands in her lap. and said what I'd been silently thinking all along. I don't want this to end when we go home. Neither do I. We didn't kiss. There was no movie moment, just a quiet agreement, shared in the way people do when they've stopped performing and started simply being. That night, we walked back under one umbrella, her hand brushing mine now and then, but never locking in. Still, I'd never felt more certain of anything in my life. We flew home that Monday, and the flight back felt different, not distant, just quiet in a way that meant we didn't need to fill the space. There's a kind of silence that comes when two people have really seen each other, when words shift from necessary to optional. We shared a cab back to her place. The sky dipped in that hour where it can't decide between blue and gold. The cab pulled up and we just sat there for a second, like stopping would break the spell. This is the part where I usually just go inside and pretend like nothing happened, she said, half joking. I looked at her. Is that what you want to do? She didn't answer right away, just searched my face for something unsaid. No, it's not. Then she leaned in and kissed me not on the lips, just the cheek. Slow. Intentional. A promise instead of a question. Text me when you get home, she said. I'll call, I told her. She smiled, stepped out, and I watched her walk to her door. The ride back to my place felt surreal, like waking from a dream that didn't fade in daylight. I unpacked a few things, stood still in the quiet of my kitchen, then reached for my phone. I called her. Hey, she said, answering immediately. I'm back, I said. Me too. We didn't speak right away. It was the kind of pause that held meaning, the kind that separates memory from momentum. Then I asked, softly but clearly, what? Now, a beat passed. Then she replied, well, I was thinking, and maybe I could make dinner this weekend. Something simple. And maybe you bring Leo. That stopped me not with hesitation, but with gravity. With the weight of someone offering, not just themselves, but space in their life. You sure? I asked. And she said, I want to meet the most important person in your life. If this is real and, I think it is, I want all of it, not just the travel or the deep talks. All of it. I let out a long breath. Okay, yeah, we'll come by. At Saturday, I picked up Leo, and we drove to Tessa's just before sunset. He was his usual shy self at first, quiet, clinging to my leg, half hidden inside the hood of his dinosaur sweatshirt. I'd told him we were visiting someone nice, someone I liked, but 5-year-olds don't care about explanations. They care about juice boxes and whether someone has cool toys. Tessa opened the door with that same calm smile. No pressure, no theatrics. She didn't reach for him or crouch down too fast, just smiled and said, Hi, Leo. I'm Tessa. I made your favorite. Dinner, mac and cheese. I hope that's still cool. He peeked out, suspicious, but curious. Do you have the orange kind or the yellow kind? She grinned. Both. He walked in like he owned the place. Dinner was easy. She had juice boxes chilled, a cartoon, humming softly in the background, and let Leo sit up on the counter while she stirred pasta. She didn't push, didn't force conversation, just let him warm up at his own pace. By the end of the night, he was counting to 110 without stopping and asking if she had any legumes. She laughed that open, genuine laugh, the kind people only give when they're not pretending. It felt familiar, like she'd always known him. Like this wasn't the first night. We didn't talk about labels. No, what are we conversation? What we were building didn't need one. It was steady, patient, quiet in the best way. Over the weeks that followed, we saw each other more, sometimes with Leo, sometimes just us. A movie here, a hike there. I fixed things around her play shelves. A drawer, and she started leaving little notes in my toolbox. Nothing big, just simple, thoughtful, funny notes that said more than anything grand ever could. In October, she came to Leo's soccer game, cheered from the sidelines like she'd been to every one. When he scored, he ran to her first. I wasn't jealous, I was proud. She met my mom at Thanksgiving, and by December, it felt like we were one step from a life neither of us dared hope for. Then, one night, 3 months in, she told me she was pregnant. We were in her kitchen, the test lying silent and fresh between us. Her face pale, hands folded tight, eyes wide with fear. "I didn't plan this," she said softly. "Neither did I," I replied. "But we're here." The silence wasn't heavy. It was real. It was breath between two people realizing everything was about to change. I reached across the table and took her hand. "We'll figure it out," I said. "Together." We got married in the spring, a small ceremony in my mom's backyard. Nothing fancy, just family, a few close friends, and Leo walking down the aisle with the ring box in his tiny hands, grinning like it was the best job in the world. Tessa wore a simple white dress that caught the afternoon light just right. And I wore a navy suit she picked with Leo's help. He insisted on the red tie, and I didn't argue. There were no nerves, no big speeches, just calm like we were both. Stepping into something that had been waiting for us all along. After that, we didn't rush. We moved slowly, the way we always had built everything piece by piece. Doctor appointments, baby prep, bedtime routines with Leo. I moved in that June. By August, little June was born. We named her after the month, sure, but really it felt like naming a new beginning, something soft, warm, and full of promise. Now it's 3 years later. I'm sitting on the same porch where I once read Tessa's first text, watching the sun sink low, spilling gold across the street. Inside, I can hear her humming to June as she rocks her to sleep, and out in the yard, Leo's trying to teach our dog how to catch a frisbee. It's not going great, but he's determined. He's like me that way, and me. I'm just watching it all, letting it sink in. Thinking about how this all started, about a Tuesday morning job that looked like easy money. Replace 2 lights, mount a flat screen, in and out. But life doesn't always care about what you planned. Sometimes you show up for a simple repair, and you leave with a whole new life. People talk about love at first sight, but that wasn't us. We didn't crash into each other like a movie. We met, we talked, we listened. We built, quietly, steadily, truthfully. And it turns out the biggest changes in life don't always come from grand gestures or dramatic moments. Sometimes they come from the smallest choices: a text you send, a cup of tea, a quiet dinner, a child's laugh. So if you're ever wondering if any of it matters, the little things, the everyday things, I'm here to tell you, yeah, does life. Didn't suddenly become a fairy tale. That's not how it works. The house still creaks in the winter. Leo still leaves socks in every room. Tessa and I still get tired, and some nights we don't say much, just sit beside each other, unwinding from long days. But there's peace in that now, real peace. The kind that doesn't need fireworks or grand declarations to prove something's working. It lives in the small things, the way she knows exactly how I take my coffee. The way I always hang her keys on the hook because she forgets every time. The way Leo leans against her when he's sleepy, not because she asks, but because he trusts her completely. June is walking, no wobbling, really that bold. It's an unsteady toddler kind of walk that somehow stays upright, and every time she laughs, the whole room feels lighter. She's got Tessa's thoughtful eyes, and my stubborn streak, and her laughter is the kind of sound that makes you forget the noise of the world. Sometimes late at night, Tessa and I just lie in bed listening to the baby monitor soft breaths. Sleepy Babbleland, I think about the man I used to be, the one who sat alone in his truck, sipping bad coffee and running job to job just to stay afloat. He had no idea what was waiting for him. Tessa still freelances. She's doing Wheeland now, teaches a virtual course to help other creatives build their own path. She's happy, deeply happy. The kind that settles quietly into your bones. I see it when she watches the kids playing outside, when she smiles to herself, like someone who finally feels at home in the world. I know that feeling, because I've found it too. We're not extraordinary people. We didn't beat impossible odds or rewrite the rules of love. We just kept showing up for ourselves, for each other, and that turned out to be enough. So yeah, I still fix things for a living. But sometimes when someone asks what I do, I think about that Tuesday morning job, about the house with 2 broken light fixtures and a flat screen waiting to be mounted, and how I walked in expecting to make a simple repair, and walked out with a reason to believe in second chances. It's late now. The house is quiet. Tessa's fallen asleep on the couch. a book half open on her chest, one hand resting near the edge like she meant to turn the page, but never did. June is upstairs, sound asleep in her crib. Leo's in his room with the door cracked, just enough to let the hallway light in his quiet way of saying he's brave, but not too brave. I move through the house, turning off the lights one by one. When I pass the living room, I glance at the wall-mounted TV, the same one I hung all those years ago on that first visit. Still solid, still centered. The bracket hasn't moved an inch. Funny how something so small became the first thread in the life we wove together. I sit beside Tessa, gently move the book, and brush a strand of hair from her face. She stirs. Her eyes flutter open just long enough to see me, then close again. She knows it's me. That's all she needs. For a while, I just sit there watching her breathe. No noise, no rush, just the soft hum of the fridge in the kitchen and a distant bark from a neighbor's dog. The house settling into the kind of calm that only follows a long day well lived. And I realize something. Back then, before this house, before Tessa, before the kids, I thought the emptiness I felt was about missing someone. But it wasn't. It was about missing being known. That deep kind of knowing that doesn't ask for performance or explanation, that sees the cracks and stays anyway. That's what I found in her. And somehow she found it in me too. I lean back, resting my head against the cushion, and think, maybe love doesn't arrive with fireworks or fanfare. Maybe it looks like this, a quiet moment, a full room. A life quietly built around a job you almost didn't take. And a woman who once handed you a glass of water, not knowing it would change everything. So if you're waiting for a sign for some cinematic moment to tell you your life is about to begin, don't. Sometimes the beginning knocks softly at your door, comes with a calm voice on the phone, hides inside a $500 job in a quiet neighborhood. That's where everything begins.